All right, so the next set of notes we're going to be talking about is determining empirical formula. And 9 out of 10 times when you're determining empirical formula, you're going to be given the percent composition of each thing. So if I say you have 11% hydrogen, 89% oxygen in a compound, determine the empirical formula, well, you just saw me solve for it. That would end up being H2O. So that's the empirical formula. But let's go ahead and take a look at the determining of empirical formula. I'm going to go ahead and solve one, and then give you kind of the how to find the ratio, because really all you're doing is you got to understand that the empirical formula is the simplest whole number ratio of elements in a compound. Okay, simplest whole number ratio of elements in a compound. So basically what we're looking for is we're looking for that whole number ratio. So let's just say that we had HSO, all right, and we did all our work to determine the empirical formula, and we got 2, 1, 4, a 2 to 1 to 4 ratio. Notice that is simplest. How do I know it's simplest? Because it has a 1 in there. You can't simplify it anymore. Then our empirical formula would be H2SO4. Okay, that would be our simplest whole number ratio. So what we need to do in terms of determining it is to solve for that 2, 1, 4 type of thing. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Like I said, you're going to be given the percentages. Okay, and I don't really like the way that this has come out, just kind of with the way that I've set it up on my screen. But basically, if you're given the percentages of each, in this case, copper, phosphorus, and chlorine, 40% copper, 40% phosphorus, and 40% copper, 35% phosphorus, and 25% chlorine. Since you have 100%, right? 100 always equal your percentages. You could say, well, what if I have 100 grams of it? Okay, if I had 100 grams of this stuff, then wouldn't I have 40 grams of copper, 35 grams of phosphorus, and 25 grams of chlorine? You could say, what if I had 200 grams? Well, I'd have 80 grams, because 40% of it, of 200 grams, would be 80 grams. 70 grams of phosphorus and 50 grams of chlorine. But again, all you basically need to do here is set your percentages equal to grams. Set percentages, whoops, or I really should say set your grams equal to your percentage. And that's what I've done here, and that would be my first step. Now your second step in determining an empirical formula is to convert all those grams to moles. And that's what this step is right here. So this step is converting all my grams to moles. As you can see, I've already done it, but basically I've gone my X line, X line, X line, and then I put grams in the denominator because that's what I'm giving, and moles on the top because that's what I'm looking for. The number for moles is always 1. The number for grams is off the periodic table. So I look up copper, and copper is 63.5. I look up phosphorus, it's 31. I look up chlorine, it's 35.5. So in this step right here, I'm converting all my grams. You can't really see it down there in the green, in the yellow. So convert grams to moles. So that's kind of what that step is. So here's my moles of each. Okay, 0.63 moles of copper, 1.13 moles of phosphorus, and 0.704 moles of chlorine. Now, once I get my moles of each, I'm going to divide all of them by the smallest. My smallest in this case was 0.63. Notice I had 0.63, 1.13, and 0.704. So I divide by 0.63. Divide them all by the smallest. Divide all the moles by the smallest moles. What that's going to do for us is give us a whole number of 1. Notice when I divide something by itself, it's going to be 1. So if I divide all the moles by the smallest moles, definitely one of them is going to be 1. So there it is. This is 1.79 and 1.12. All right? That gives me my 1. So then therefore, I can then know that I'm going to have a simplest whole number ratio. Now, the next step is to round to the whole number. Since we're looking for an empirical formula, which is the simplest whole number ratio, 1, 2, and 1. Sorry about the laser. 1, 2, and 1. And so therefore, my empirical formula is 1 for copper, 2 phosphoruses, and 1 chlorine. There's my empirical formula. Okay? So that's your determining rules and steps for determining the empirical formula. I'll do another one in a moment, but basically I've got the steps outlined here underneath. Okay, so my first step is, because the percentage is equal to 100, you set percentage to grams by assuming you have 100 grams. So that's this first step. The next step is convert grams to moles. That's this step right here. The next step is find the simplest whole number ratio by dividing by the smallest number of moles. I guess I didn't put a mole, smallest number. So that's this step right here. And then last step is you round to whole numbers, and there it is. And then these become the subscripts for my empirical formula.